Beyond their legendary physical conditioning and athletic physiques, what else is known about the ancient Spartans? These warriors were undoubtedly among the most austere and uncompromising figures of the ancient world, and their life philosophy, founded on strength and discipline, resonated through many subsequent eras. Their entire state was, in essence, one vast, meticulously organized military camp where every aspect of life was subordinate to martial ideals. A Spartan didn't just wield a spear. He seemed to merge with it. He ate with his spear, slept with it, and even in the most mundane tasks, he could find use for this formidable weapon, a symbol of his very existence. Once, when a Spartan warrior was asked why their mighty city lacked defensive walls, he proudly replied, "Our true walls are ourselves, and our insurmountable borders are our spears." This answer eloquently demonstrated their unwavering self-confidence and disdain for traditional fortifications. Interestingly, all those whom the Spartans subjugated and conquered were enslaved as helots. These subjugated peoples formed the backbone of their economy, but their sheer numbers and the constant threat of rebellion only reinforced the Spartans' need to maintain their army in a state of absolute combat readiness. The Spartans' health was truly ironclad, and this was no accident. The selection process began at birth. Infants found to have any physical defects or signs of illness were ruthlessly left to die, cast into a chasm. Only those who displayed impeccable health and physical robustness were granted the right to live. But an equally harsh path awaited even them. Children who were not rejected underwent grueling yet health-strengthening procedures designed to harden their bodies and spirits. These included prolonged periods of starvation, sleeping on cold floors and hard reeds, and regular floggings with rods, intended to build endurance and tolerance to pain. Beyond physical trials, there were other, equally harsh rules. For instance, wearing full clothing was only permitted from the age of 12, which fostered resistance to cold and discomfort. To ensure warriors could forage for food and survive independently in wartime, adolescents were deliberately taught the art of theft. Those who returned empty-handed, having failed to procure anything, were mercilessly beaten. Those caught in the act faced even harsher punishment. This was not merely a lesson in stealth but also a test of ingenuity, survival, and the ability to avoid traps, ultimately shaping an ideal warrior capable of acting independently and effectively in the most extreme conditions. Once, a young Spartan stole a fox cub. When approached, he immediately concealed the cub under his cloak. The fox, in fear and pain, began to bite into his stomach, yet the boy stood completely unfazed, answering questions with such a stoic expression that he aroused no suspicion. He ultimately died because the fox gnawed through him. This tragic story was later passed down through generations as a tale of true valor and self-sacrifice. Among their leisure activities, Spartans were permitted the so-called krypteia. Young warriors would raid neighboring helot villages, plundering them and killing the strongest men. They would also kill animals and seek shelter from the cold in their still warm entrails. Such customs are, without a doubt, striking in their cruelty. However, alongside intensive training in martial arts and combat techniques, a true Spartan was expected to demonstrate the highest morality and a profound understanding of virtue. This created a paradoxical image. The severity of their existence was combined with an adherence to strict moral principles. Spartans held a deep aversion to idle and verbose conversations. If anyone spoke too expansively, they were immediately interrupted, even if their words were wise. They uttered the famous phrase, "You speak to the point, but not to the place," emphasizing that in wartime, utmost precision and brevity of speech were necessary. This ability to express oneself concisely and succinctly is still known today as Laconicism, named after the region of Laconia, where Sparta was located. The ancient Spartans, known for their blunt directness, often displayed a penchant for biting teasing towards other Hellenes. Their witty remarks were characterized by extreme conciseness and challenge. For example, "I can stand on one leg longer than you," or "My goose is longer than yours." Once, a Spartan, hearing someone sing, remarked, "Do you hear that singer, singing just like a nightingale? I have heard the nightingale itself," emphasizing the superiority of experience over imitation. The Athenians, in turn, were no less sharp in their replies. They declared, You Spartans don't teach us. Of all Greeks, we are the only ones who learn nothing bad from you." And when asked about the most worthy person in Sparta, the Athenians acidly remarked, "The one who least resembles you," thus expressing their view of Spartan customs. In Sparta, even the women were worthy of their husbands and famed for their resilience. From a young age, they underwent rigorous physical and military training, practicing running, wrestling, and throwing the javelin and discus. Their strength and endurance were so legendary that Athenian comedies featured jokes about a Spartan woman's ability to strangle even a bull. It was believed that only in Sparta did husbands heed their wives' words, for only Spartan women gave birth to true men. When a Spartan woman sent her son off to war, she handed him his shield with the famous words, "With your shield or on it," implying that he should return either victorious or as a fallen warrior, carried on that very shield. Legend has it that when one Spartan mother sent 5 of her sons into battle, she met a messenger with a single question. "How are things?" Upon hearing the reply, "All 5 are killed," she, without flinching, clarified, "That's not what I asked." "Who won?" When she received the affirmative answer, "We did," she replied with satisfaction. "Excellent," demonstrating the priority of victory over personal loss. On the battlefield, a Spartan felt truly in his element, displaying astonishing composure. He went into battle not as a deadly struggle, but as if to a festive banquet, meticulously prepared, dressed up, anointed his body with oil, and carefully combed his long hair. Spartan commanders attached particular importance to this, instructing their warriors, "Take care of your hairstyle, it makes the beautiful formidable, and the ugly terrifying," emphasizing the psychological effect of appearance. Their combat attire was exclusively red, serving a dual purpose: to instill terror in the enemy and to conceal any possible traces of wounds. Spartans entered battle to the sound of music, with songs on their lips, which not only maintained the strict order of their phalanx but also immensely boosted the morale of every warrior. The strictest discipline was an unwavering pillar of the Spartan worldview. Spartan warriors fought in dense phalanx ranks, where each stood shoulder to shoulder with his comrade. Leaving the formation to rush at the enemy with desperate bravery, or, conversely, retreating from the enemy, was considered an equally unforgivable crime. Once, as tradition holds, a Spartan youth, naked but carefully oiled, leapt from his dwelling directly onto the battlefield. He displayed incredible valor, crushing many opponents and avoiding any injuries. However, despite his heroic feat, the young warrior was first crowned with laurels and paid due respect, but then immediately subjected to flogging with rods and fined for a gross violation of military discipline. And of course, the question arises about the prevalence of homosexual relationships in Sparta. Indeed, among the Hellenes, this was considered an accepted norm. Such relationships found their justification in the belief that a warrior would defend his beloved with far greater devotion than an ordinary comrade in arms. Moreover, Sparta's marriage rituals were striking in their originality. On the night before the wedding, the bride had to cut her hair short and dress in a man's cloak and sandals. She was then left alone in a dark room, where she was visited and symbolically captured by her new husband. After the marital rites, he would discreetly return to his comrades to spend the night with them. Beyond their martial traditions and social customs, the Spartans, strangely enough, were also renowned for their culinary delights. The staple dish in a Spartan warrior's diet was the famous black blood broth, prepared from pork with added lentils, vinegar, and salt. This culinary masterpiece evoked such mixed reactions that, according to legend, a Persian king, having tasted just a little, exclaimed, "Yes, now I understand why the Spartans so fearlessly go to their deaths. It's better to die than to eat such a thing." Contrary to a widespread myth, Spartan warriors never actually went into battle completely naked. Their combat attire, on the contrary, was a very well-designed and functional set, intended to provide maximum protection and effectiveness in fierce engagements. This equipment included not only the famous massive shield, the hoplon, but also a reliable helmet and certain elements of body protection, allowing these legendary fighters to engage in battle with the highest degree of readiness and safety.